this is a three-part qualifying session that we're going to enjoy. Typically, Mark and I start talking about those that are doing rocket times and focusing on the front of the grid, but remembering that we also need to keep one eye on what happens towards the bottom of the timesheet in this one. Qualifying, it's all about max attack, and unfortunately a maximum attack has brought James Golding undone. So he's off the road. I think this is between 2 and 3. Where was he?
Pasquale might miss out here. This is red flag now. Did he get over? Did he get over? Oh. David Reynolds hasn't got over.
Yeah, and Mostert was on a better lap. He'll be filthy. Keeping in mind, and it's so hard to deprogram yourself, our eyes always flick to the top. It's the bottom that matters. It's those that didn't get on. You know, you were looking at the bottom 5 here that we need to focus on. So we'll check out the replay.
This is the one that's been affected the most. So Jack Smith and David Reynolds there at the final corner, a little bit of contact. But that red flag, it's about to come out, and David's missed out, which that, I think, under that scenario, leaves him 25th. So this has had a massive consequence on the order.
A little bit more of that UV, a little bit more of the sunshine on the racetrack may have dried it up. I think it'll probably continue to improve coming down the hill. I don't hold too much hope for what's going on between turns 1 and 2 here, because there's something of a little river there. It's actually coming from the race course, and you can see from left-hand side of the road that it's just forming a couple of little rivers there. And it probably couldn't be much worse, because only a fraction of a second later you turn right, having put a whole lot of water on the left-hand side tyres, temporarily cooled them out. Chaz Mostert jumps up now with a low 8. He's in second position. Still waiting for some indicative times to be laid down. Bryce Ford's having a strong weekend, Mark. He's just come up in the middies, electrical entry into position number 5, so that's a nice job. He's being engineered by Phil Keed, who's a very highly experienced and successful race engineer, and I think there's been a lot of coaching there and just getting Bryce's confidence back and starting to understand what those cars work.
Cam Waters, he comes up with a 7.9 up to 4th. This is going to be wild. The last 10 seconds of this session. De Pasquale comes onto the straight. What does this number give ADP?
2.
It's going to be up there somewhere. It is to 7.7, and Will Davison again a 7.48. That's a remarkable lap time. I think that's a new record, Neil, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly faster than anything else that we've seen this weekend.
Yeah, 7.6 was the previous record of Mostert. So that's the fastest lap ever we've seen.
Yeah, practice record here is a 7.5, quali record's a 7.6, and the lap record's an 8.2. McLaughlin, Mostert, Van Gisbergen, the 3 drivers involved in each of those 3 things. So that's a big number, one that we've not seen here before. Now, you put that in the context of what the track condition looks like, and that's pretty special to do a 7.4 for Will down there, particularly between turns 1 and 2. So
now, Van Gisbergen's 10th at the moment. Now he's 11th. Jack LeBroc's come up.
He's out.
Yeah, so at the moment, he's on a good lap, but he's currently 11th. Here he comes.
No, that's
Feeney. So he comes up, and Van Gisbergen gets in with a 7.54. How's that? That's effectively after the checkered flag. Scott Pye, who's done a really good job in Sector 1, but Waters and Mostert are out.
And he gets across the line in a 1 minute 8.1. Hard thing to do, a shootout lap in these conditions at the moment where things cool out, and then you've got to make a bit of a guess judgment on what's going on with the water here and there. Concrete apron on the exit, the Shell V-Power Racing Team entry to greet the checkered flag. He's chasing an 8.1, and he's done a 1 minute 8.00. So far this year, he's had 3 Armour All poles. He made his debut at this racetrack back in 2005. En route to his championship as he gets it up on 2 wheels at turn 1 and just wrestles it out the other side. He picked up a championship win in 2010 and a race victory here at this location. He knows the track well. High degree of confidence, but I'll give him 10 out of 10 for the visuals. I'm not sure it'll translate to lap speed.
He is, and he's been very fast through the course of the weekend. Trying to flow it off the top of the hill here and not get caught too hard with that water on the right-hand side in the braking area for Dandenong Road. Oh, he ran too wide, missed the apex.
Understood,
And that 25.91 is a really nice job. It's the fastest on the back straight also, but he's very wide coming off the top and yellow flag, so that's a curb strike.
Yeah, so he didn't get it turned in.
Got a curb, mate, curb.
And then when you drift so far to the right and you hit turn 7, which is really just that kink, it makes a much bigger job of then turning to the right to negotiate it, but the curb strike effectively.
It's one of those places that if you've got poor drive traction, it really shows up, and that was indicated off the back of Dandenong Road there at turn 9. So an 8.5 for LeBrock, that puts him into 4th. He's only 24 years of age. He's got a great future, this young man. Very nice lap so far. Remember, he got into the top 10 with a 7.7.
The transition between turns 6 and 7 flies it over the top of the curbing at 9. So it's a decent number in the mid-sector, but not the best that we've seen. It's going to be right there with Will Brown. He's got one corner to run. Does it turn? Yep. Traction not too bad on top of the concrete out the other side. This is going to be very close, and it's going to put Thomas Randall right in the game here, and he drops into 3rd spot on an 8 flat.
How's the margins? 7.96 plays an 8 dead for Di Pasquale and an 8.01 for Randall.
Jams into that throttle on the exit of turn 4, and the fastest first sector that we've seen so far. Let's ride with him up the back straight. He's got a tiny bit of tailwind here. Listening. Just got on the edge of the rim a little. Back one gear, slides it over the top of the hill, 200 kilometres an hour, lands the front tyres, gets maximum brake pressure on, release the brake, turn left, 2nd gear, out the other side, fly the car over the top of the curb, and out the other side. Not an ounce of lock-up, not an ounce of wheel spin, and this looks very solid. He's gone quicker in sectors 1 and 2 than any other. He's got a little bobble through the final corner, and he has to catch it. Andrew Edwards goes, oh my goodness, their heart rates are up. Is it going to be enough for Van Gisbergen? Yes!
Yeah, good job, man. Nice work.
And on that wide shot before I can pick it up again, so he's just sat it on there. Now, is this going to be the telling factor in determining the Armour All pole for this afternoon? Will Davison has been fantastic. He and Cam Waters are in a great arm wrestle for the maximum number of poles this year. He's got on the rev limiter on the run to turn 2. The Shell V-Power Racing entry hops over the curb beautifully, lands nicely, perfectly on line on the approach to turn 4. Kiss the curb out the other side, stays off the concrete, and he's done a 25.8 mark, was just giving away about 1/10 of a second to Van Gisbergen in sector 1.
Famous Melbourne racing family, the Davisons, right back to his grandfather. And he's been super fast. In fact, he did the fastest time ever at this venue. He was very wide off 7. He was able to gather it up. He had to get out of the throttle and keep it contained. He's done the fastest sector 2. We heard him on the limiter in the previous run. This is very close. It's within 4 or 5 hundredths of a second of Van Gisbergen. Remember, Shane made the mistake right here. Did he do the same? A little bit, wasn't it?
A little. Just upset him ever so slightly. And there's under investigation message on the timing monitor, car 17 pit exit breach. So he's gone to the top, but is there a question mark over the lap? So 1 minute 7.6 for Will Davison, 0.18 of a second over Shane Van Gisbergen. But is there a deeper story to tell?
Wow.
What does all that mean?
Don't know.
That is very weird, isn't it? That he crossed the chevrons coming out of pit lane here. So see, there's a yellow chevron there, and he's driven it out of the lane early, across the chevron and onto the racetrack. Now, there must have been some notes or
It's in the
some
driver briefing notes.
in the driver briefing notes. Yeah, I thought I saw something about it, but he's by himself, clearly on the top 10 shootout's a lot different to any other time that you're qualifying, because if you qualify and drive straight out there, then that's out of order because there's other cars out there. But when you're by yourself, then that's why Will would have thought that would be okay. He clearly wouldn't have done it intentionally to do the wrong thing or to breach the regulations. But again, this is what our sport is all about, operating within those regulations. And if the drivers were told that that was the case, then that's where the issue is going to be. So we'll have to be careful with how we treat this now, because he won't know what's going on. The team will be trying to deal with it with Motorsport Australia and with Supercars officials. And then that lap, which was good enough to knock Shane Van Gisbergen off with a 7.65, will have to be assessed within the guidelines of what the drivers were briefed on.
All right, so let's have a look at the results. The question mark around what's going on there. We saw the replay of Will crossing over that line out there, and as Mark correctly pointed out, becomes a big issue during the racing. What will be counterpointed by the team is what possible impact could it have when you're the only car on the racetrack. But it will be in the pre-briefing notes, because there's always notes about pit entry and pit exit in the standard driver briefing notes that you get for the events. So the order at the moment, Davison, Van Gisbergen, Brown, Di Pasquale, Randall, Winterbottom, Courtney, LeBrock, Heimgartner and Feeney. That ended up being our top 10 after the shootout. And there's a couple of guys that'll be digging deep this afternoon to see whether or not they can make some progress. That'll be a wild ride when you look at the battle between Waters, Mostert and Kostecki alone. They will be well and truly amongst it, together with people like David Reynolds down the order and Nick Percat. So quite a mixed grid to deal with